Advertising's primary aim is to promote a product or a service or a brand. For every consumer in this world, advertisement probably is the biggest source of information. Advertising cost is actually a revenue building cost. You spend money to get money. So definitely advertisement has got a direct impact towards the standard of living. Good morning and welcome to the third session in Unit 1, 6th semester BBA, Advertising and Media Management, where we're going to talk about a topic called as socio-ethical aspect of advertising. In the previous classes, we have been discussing about the importance of advertising, but in this class, we're going to talk about the aspects of advertising from the social aspect standpoint. Now, when you look into the advertising field, the criticism that most promotional messages are tasteless and that promotion contributes nothing for the society's well-being sometimes ignore the fact, and there is no commonly accepted set of standards. Now, let's come into this factor and try to understand what is that tasteless factor coming into picture. Advertising's primary aim is to promote a product or a service or a brand. Now, what happens altogether here is that when you start getting into promotional aspects, you suddenly forget the society, the environment in which you are living. The aim is only to promote the brand, the aim is only to promote that particular product or that service, and you are not really concerned about the people, concerned about the environment, the culture, the diversity, or the mindset of the people. The reason is that you are more concerned about profits, you are more concerned about the brand getting recognized, you're more concerned about the fact that it has to be reconciled into the minds of people, it has to be constantly remembered by the n number of people who are watching your ad, and you're not really worried about what would be the social impact of these advertisements. So when we talk about the social aspect, there is a whole lot of impact that happens because of an advertisement which is wrongly placed or which does not really translate a proper meaning into the society. Now, moving further, advertisement has been able to attract attention, that is, its impact on the economic and social culture. And advertising activity has a vast employment of potential, and it has got a lot of jobs associated with it. And you can see that about 0.34% of the GDP is coming through it. So which means to say that there is a lot of potential in this particular sector. Now, advertising as a field, as an employment zone altogether, has got something really wonderful. Why? Because many people are associated from different walks of life. Advertising is not about just becoming a brand ambassador and earning in millions, but it's all about the hard work, the creativity, the thought process, and the way how it needs to be projected in the society. So there's a whole lot of homework that goes behind the screen in terms of getting you a particular ad or getting you a particular factor altogether. Now, many people think that advertising is very easy. Why? Because it immediately puts you to that limelight of the society. But the reality is that advertising is not about just hopping onto the limelight. Advertising is not just about making yourself popular. It is about conveying a message that is useful for the society, that is useful for the generations to come, and there should be some meaning in your product or the service that you are promoting. If these things are not found, then automatically the advertising concept becomes tasteless, it becomes meaningless, and people do not follow you anymore. Moving further, let's try to understand the problem that is essentially here is that learning to measure both macro effects of advertising so that it might be employed more efficiently, imposing certain social controls that will eliminate minimize the entire deleterious effects of the advertising of social welfare. Now, advertising as a positive outlook, you will be asking me this question: how much money is involved? Definitely, there's a whole lot of money that is involved, no doubts about it. But then the question that starts coming into picture is that what exactly the earning potential of advertisement translates into. Advertisement is actually a referral activity rather than a one-time show. Moment the advertisement gets referred to different corners, different channels, to different people and to different strata of the society, there are multiple income sources that get associated with it. So on a positive note, advertisement might be a very good revenue channel, might be a very good earning potential in the modern economy. Many people want to get associated, about affiliated marketing, or you might be talking about, referential marketing and so many other aspects. So what advertising can do in a positive strand is that take forward advertisement and make it even more strong. Get a lot of jobs onto the mainstream. But where it is losing is that imposing social controls that will minimize that activity of advertising. Now, the deleterious effects, that's where I'm trying to come across, trying to say the negative aspects of the advertising. Suppose I'm trying to convey some negative message, some wrong message, some unwanted message. I'm trying to expose too much, both physically, mentally, the choice of words, and some unrelated or antisocial elements I'm trying to bring into the system, then automatically the advertisement will take a very big toll on the society. Following by which, if for no other reason there is an activity that employs several million people, promotion is considered to be one of the most important economic importance, by which I would definitely like to say that yes, it has a huge potential altogether. Why? Because it gives you that much amount of revenue earning capacity. Sometimes I feel that advertisement is something which is like a no man's island. Why do I say this statement to you? Because if you start looking into advertisement, somebody creates an ad, that ad gets promoted through some channel, and there are millions of people watching it. Now, millions of people, when they start watching an ad, they suddenly start asking this question: how is this ad becoming so powerful, so viral altogether? People sometimes forget the product, they sometimes forget the message, they also forget the ideology behind it. But what they don't forget is the virality concept, the jingles, the sound, the words that are being used, or probably, even if I'm going to talk about something very interesting like how this entire ad starts creating a beautiful atmosphere, a mindset altogether. So that promotion concept, which starts attracting millions of people for no reason, rather for no big activity altogether, that is where this advertisement picks up to a very great steam. But then, for example, criticism that promotion cost also too much views that an individual expense item in isolation if it fails to consider the possible of promotion onto the categories of expenditure. So definitely where advertisement makes money is both in terms of criticism, also in terms of appraisal. The only thing we need to keep in mind is that it does not affect the society. Followed by which, advertising as a source of information. For every consumer in this world, advertisement probably is the biggest source of information. Where do you seek information? Or probably you might tell me the answer is Google, or you might tell me probably any other search engines that you are knowing. But I would like to say that the knowledge about a product, the knowledge about a service, or the knowledge about any activity that is surrounding you is always reflected through an ad that is popping up through your mobile or through your internet or through any other apps that you own or you see. The reason is that advertising's primary aim is to make the consumer aware about what is going on in the society. So advertisement is a very, very powerful source of medium that is able to drive you to the next level, make you understand why it is happening. Now, for a very simple example, let's take Blinkit. Blinkit, the way they have been promoting themselves saying that the last moment application, that's exactly what anybody needs. Now, let's say in next 10 minutes, you need a simple thing like a soap, like a toothpaste, or probably even you need to have a small amount of grocery that you want to your house. What you do, you just open a Blinkit app and you order it, and in 5 or 10 minutes, that particular product is there at your home. Now, what makes you feel so happy about it is that there is an app which caters to your last minute needs. That's exactly where advertisement is also created. Blinkit's ideology itself was to say that for your last moment needs, we are available. So advertisement is the biggest source of information for most of our customers. Followed by the advertising and the prices. Does heavy advertising expenditure raise on consumer prices? The question is superficial and compelling one, and the answer is that in some cases, yes, it does, and many cases, it does not. Now, if I look at the advertisement expenses that are being spent by Hindustan Lever Limited, or if I'm going to talk about a brand like Nike, or an Adidas, or a Reebok, or a Gillette, or if I'm going to talk about MRF, or if I'm going to talk about, the banks like ICICI or HDFC Bank, or any other probably the biggest brands that you know, including Walmart or, McDonald's and all those big brands that are existing on this earth, the cost of advertising is not equated towards the consumer prices. Why I make this statement is that advertising cost is actually a revenue building cost. You spend money to get money. So I wouldn't say that it's an expenditure. I would say it is a source of creating revenue for you. Until you advertise, you will not make your customer know about you. See, for example, you're going to launch a new brand of sports accessories. Now, it is your primary duty that you try to convey the message to the millions of people out in this world. Now, if you start suddenly believing that I will advertise only once or twice or once in a fortnight, once in a month altogether, you are not going to make any great impact. The more and more you advertise and you make the impact feel in the minds of consumer, then only the revenue streams are going to open up for you. So, prices behind an advertising will not exactly contribute to the cost. Rather, yes, it's going to make you understand that somewhere the channels are going to open up faster and consumers are definitely going to show their reaction towards the ads that they see. The three instances are when there are saturation exists. Yeah, definitely when the market saturates, you need advertisement. When decreasing returns to scale are encountered, and when advertisement itself is ineffective. Now, let's look into these three conditions, why we need to start advertising more. The exact situation, the current market economy is under a saturation. The market is saturated probably in every sector that we are speaking. If you look into IT, you look into banking, you look into production, or you look into consumer durables, every single sector is almost on a peak of saturation. Why this has happened? Because the consumption levels are not at the peak. Now, people are not really interested in buying. Not much of investment is happening. So somewhere what is happening is that the market is getting stagnated. Other than the essential needs, we don't see much of consumption activity happening. So at that point of time, it becomes important for the companies to come back and again start advertising. So when the market saturates, advertising becomes a channel to open up. Number two, on a decreasing returns to scale. So when you start decreasing, when the thing starts coming downwards, when you start suddenly seeing in the economic graph that there is a decreasing returns to whatever that we are talking about, then it is important for the company to start advertising more and increase the revenue so that there is a possibility that new customers would become your loyal brand ambassadors. The next thing is that when the advertising itself is ineffective, many a times you create an ad just because you also want to join the bandwagon. But the biggest challenge here is that are you effective enough in conveying your message to the consumers? And the answer is no. Then you need to re-look into your advertisement. You need to change the way how you're projecting yourself on the screen. If your advertisement is going to be boring, it's going to be repetitive, it does not have life in it, then that means that advertising has to be changed. The methodology has to be changed so that it becomes more convincing and understandable to the consumers. Followed by which, the level of output. One of the arguments often presented in favor of advertising that it stimulates demand and therefore production, which in turn stimulates income generation. So it's quite simple that, demand generates the output altogether. There is a multiplier effect from advertising, and this may follow logically into a capital conversion altogether. Now, how far this is true is again a debatable topic, but nevertheless, going with the flow of the topic, definitely advertisement has the potential to create demand in the market. That nobody is going to deny that. Why? Because more the ad, there is going to be a curiosity that's created towards the product. That means you are trying to draw the attention of the consumers towards your product, which means that there might be a potential buyer existing somewhere. So automatically when you're creating this buyer zone, then you would see that the potential is increasing, things are moving further, and there is some multiplier effect coming into picture. So somewhere advertisement has got that linear connection towards the factor that advertising can lead to demand capital function automatically. Yes, it is possible in the long run. Followed by which, we're also going to talk about aspects of advertising with criticisms. Why? Because it is argued that the biggest and potentially most insurmountable problem encountered is to examine and evaluate the social issues surrounding advertisement, which is quite subjective. Now, many times what is happening is that advertisements become too comparative, they become too direct, and sometimes they become too bold for the society to accept this way of advertisement. Sometimes we might also feel on this factor that, advertising is not working the way it has to. It starts getting into a zone where people start asking you this question: is it really worth taking this kind of ad? Is it really worth that this ad is going to work? Or is it really good enough that, this kind of ad will promote something in the society? Now, let's look into certain ads which we are familiar in the market. Now, whenever we look into ads like Red Bull, or whenever we start looking into ads that is going to involve tobacco-related products, or whenever we are going to look into ads that are involving themselves into alcohol or anti-social elements into the products of advertisement, there is definitely a deeper impact which people want to reject. Why? Because that is sending a negative message to the society. That is causing some concern to the society. These days, whenever you look into the TV channels, there are a lot of advertisement that talks about online betting, gambling, and other kinds of activity. Now, whether you call it for thrill or you call it for fun purpose, but the other side is that advertisements are directly and indirectly promoting the concept of gambling, promoting the concept of betting and the intuition-based activities, which might lead to severe loss to the consumers. So advertisements have to be very, very cautious about what they are speaking and how they are trying to promote their products. Now, when we move further, the criticisms are they are frequently false and misleading, which is quite true. Most of the time, when people ask this question, the fair and handsome kind of a advertisement that comes into picture, if I use fair and handsome, would I really become fair? Now, the answer to that is not. If I use any other serum or cream, immediately I get 3 times fairness. The answer is no. It is quite false and misleading. Now, concentrates on selling products, neither what they need or they want. Many a times it is true. Why? Because I am trying to push a product which might not be really needed at that point of time. And it leads to a bad taste altogether. Why? Because it is not needed for the society at that point of time. Similarly, it stresses on small and insignificant differences between products. Now, this is one thing really fantastic which I want to concentrate upon. If you look into the number of advertisements in the cooking oils, the number of advertisements that are coming in that line is quite interesting for all of us to know. The reason is quite simple. Each of the advertisement will try to talk about something which is a very, very minute fraction, or rather something that can be just ignored upon. They bring in some new jargons, they bring in some new values, they bring in some new time or kind of names that into it that makes the people get confused. But at the end of the day, it's the same product. Now, if you're going to talk about what is the difference between Move and Volini, both of them are the same pain relief agents, but then where does it change? The way how the advertisement starts projecting is as if that when you use these products, you get a supernatural effect on your body, but that's not true. The fact is that both of them are the same diclofenac gels that are going to be applied on the body, on the part where you have the pain or when the sprain comes up to you. But then it is not going to really make a huge amount of difference. But then what happens in advertising is just to promote the product, push the product into the market. You are trying to bring in certain things just by its number factor. Now, the next thing is that it's too persuasive. It can be used to take advantage on children. There's a lot of bad effect on the children. Much of the advertising is irrelevant and it has resulted in uniformity. Now everybody starts following the same line, same channel. It's repetitive, it's boring, and sometimes you might find that certain advertisements have a direct effect on the minds of the children. Now the charges labeled against advertisement can be explained in the following ways. Cosmetics appeals that the cosmetic will make you a young man, more lovable, more attractive. I think this is what we have been speaking about. Many of the times you would have seen this in your TV screens. Without taking the name, I would like to say here, there are many cosmetics that are available in the market today that starts promising things, saying that you could get transformed into an angel or you could get transformed into a Greek god by just using their product. But the answer to that is definitely a no. Why? Because you are what you are. You are not going to get transformed just by using the product overnight and trying to become something supernatural. But then what happens in advertisement is that the way it is projected definitely leads to a chaos and confusion in the minds of the consumers. Now, people want to look better, eat better, live better, drive better. So, people always keep looking out for innovative things to happen in life. Now, when I move to the automobile sector, every time when you see a car advertisement or a two-wheeler advertisement popping up on your screen, you feel that I should have bought this. But then you go back and think about the car or the scooter that's already there in your home. What is wrong with it? When you bought that same product, you were again promised with so many different features that were told by the company. Now, the new product that's also going to be revealed on the screen also has got the same features, plus or minus here and there. But then your mind gets completely deviated. Why? Because the moment you see a new product with a new feature, new color rolling out on the street, you are completely carried away. You suddenly feel that the product, the car or the two-wheeler that I'm having is of no value, is of no use anymore. I need to switch immediately. Now, that's exactly the effect of advertising on a social impact. This makes a man get into debt. Why? Because it puts him into a compulsive buying behavior. And finally, what happens is that he keeps on buying more and more, spending most of his money into the consumer durables. Now, advertising practitioners always face an ethical issue that is common to all professional unique, because they also have to answer to the questions that are raised by the public. And despite some academic and popular discussions that have been happening on the ethics of advertising, which we have been talking about, automatically what is happening is that the broad and the social consequences to the consumer's perceptions and the objectionable ads title is known very, very few. So there is definitely a huge amount of responsibility that is coming out in terms of the advertising people, because they have to come back and answer the questions and tell where exactly the problem is coming in, why certain things need to be avoided, and they need to answer also the factor that why they have taken this kind of messages or the thought process into their mind. So it's very, very important for all of us to understand how an ad is being created and it has been projected to the minds of people. Now, advertising gained prominence in the Western culture when a mass society, because of the simple factor that the reality turned out during the Industrial Revolution. There was a mass literacy coming up. There was a revolution that was coming up, transportation, availability of goods. So on the added to the feature factor moment, when we started bringing in this kind of advertisement, the entire thing started becoming even more attractive. So that's where, when moment you start seeing a press, a cinema, video, everything getting added on to it, the revolution became quite interesting, and that's why advertising started picking up during that particular season. Now, the standard of living, that's also today talks about a lot. Why? Because a society which follows a particular standard of living is also coming through the advertisement. Now, that talks about the economic prosperity of that society, which tells that how much people consume based on the ads, what kind of lifestyle they want to live, what kind of activity they want to promote, how is that they want to be a part of it. So everything comes as a visionary factor here. So definitely advertisement has got a direct impact towards the standard of living. Followed by which the socio-ethical aspects, when we are talking about, that is with the good and bad with reference to a particular culture at a given point of time. Morality is more concerned with the type of conduct that we are talking about. So sometime down the lane, if you are trying to do something which is unethical by nature, or you're trying to do something which does not carry value towards the society, then the ethics comes down, which will definitely affect the advertising factor. Followed by which advertising and children, one of the most challenging areas and concerns I would say is the children. Why? Because they get easily carried away by the ads. Whatever is shown in the ad, they immediately understand and assume that that is true. So if an advertising company trying to create an ad about the product is trying to project something which will get instantly affected to the minds of the children, they need to be doubly careful. Why? Because they will definitely get into this factor. So they are more susceptible to the appeals of the advertiser. So it is very important the way how you create an ad and how you release it, because children are definitely watching you and the ads need to be of ethical standards. Now, the aspects of advertising in social factor is also very powerful institution, because often it is considered to be towards the social and economic impact. And there have been raising concerns about this factor that one side you are making money, the other side the society is getting degraded. So somewhere you have to strike a balance. You need to come back and tell the society for what is the reason, what is the purpose that you are working for. Followed by which the future today is about consumers. So definitely the future is more and more stronger in terms of creating something which will be needed for the society, which needs to be better, which needs to be created with better thought process. And every product has to come with a greater social responsibility so that the consumers will definitely appreciate your product, will also appreciate the innovative things that have gone behind the product. Now, there's also more important that the merits and demerits also have to be brought into picture. It provides a lot of opportunities. It is giving a lot of chance and scope to the people that they can create things on their own and they can build better products for tomorrow. Now, the economic aspect is that you have to enhance the product value, utility value, which means the needs satisfying capacity, reduce the price factor, and reduce the production cost factor. All these things have to be done in order to make the advertisement even more effective. Now, the most important thing is that the standard of living, it lowers the overhead cost of production, keeps a track of seasonal fluctuation. It helps the producer to achieve economic capacity, helps to enhance the sales turnover, economies of scales of production, reduce the cost of production, and reduce the per unit cost also. So these are all the benefits that we are seeing of a good social advertising. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that all the factors that we have spoken will be of use to you in both in terms of theory as well as in the practical walk of life. In the upcoming session, we will be talking more about the advertising in media from a different perspective. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay energetic always. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session. You have a great day.